Uni Academy floated in the dark between stars. It was a massive station, built 300 years ago when the first alien species decided that young beings from different worlds should learn together. Over time, more than 400 species had sent their children here. The Academy had seen every kind of student. Tall ones, small ones, beings made of light, creatures that breathe poison, students with 10 legs and students with none at all. Trucker had worked at the Academy for 6 years. He was a species with pale blue skin that you could almost see through and 4 long antennae on his head that moved with his emotion. He had welcomed thousands of students. He had seen fights, friendships, and everything in between. He believed he had seen it all. He was wrong. An exchange program was new. Earth had only made contact with the galactic community 17 cycles ago. Humans were still a mystery to most species. The report said they were small, soft, and frail. They came from a medium-sized planet in an unremarkable solar system. Nothing special, the report said. Nothing to worry about. The Academy accepted its first human student, a 12-year-old girl named Park. The administrative council expected a quiet semester. The girl would learn, make some friends, and return to Earth with stories about the stars. Simple. I've on the first day of the new semester, waited at the registration hall with his tablet, ready to guide her to her dormitory. He watched the transport dock and saw the airlock open. A small figure stepped through. It was indeed small. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her eyes were dark and calm. She wore the standard Academy uniform and carried a bag over one shoulder. She looked around the registration hall with curiosity but no fear. And noticed something on her other shoulder. It was a creature. It was about the size of a small bag, covered in rough black and white fur. It had a flat head, small round ears, and dark eyes that seemed to look at everything and trust nothing. Its claws were long and curved. When it opened its mouth slightly, saw teeth that were clearly made for biting through things that did not want to be bit. The creature sat on the girl's shoulder like it owned her, like it owned the whole station. And Tane flattened against his head. This was a fear response. He could not control it. "Welcome to the Academy," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You are Park." "Yes," the girl said. Her voice was soft and polite. "Thank you for having me." "That organism on your shoulder, what is it?" Sis reached up and scratched behind the creature's ear. It made a low sound, something between a growl and a purr. "She's my emotional support animal. I have all the data." At his tablet, he scrolled through the files. The human government had indeed sent documentation. The creature was registered, vaccinated, and approved for trial. Someone in the Academy administration had signed off on it, made a note to find out who that person was, and asked them main question. "It is permitted inside the Academy?" he asked. "Work was approved," said again. She smiled slightly. "She is harmless. She is very friendly once she knows you." Did the creature called look back at him? There was nothing friendly in those small dark eyes. There was only a cold evaluation, like the creature was deciding whether it was a threat, food, or simply not worth the effort. He said he did not see, he did not understand at all. "Follow me, I will show you to your dormitory." Through the Academy quarters, other students stopped to stare. A group of tall reptilian beings with scales and sharp teeth watched from a distance. A cluster of flowing gas beings that communicated through color changes shifted to alarmed oranges past. Ian, a species known for having no fear because they could regenerate any wound, moved to the side of the quarter. Everyone was looking at the creature. Not seemed to notice, or perhaps she noticed and did not care. She sat on his shoulder, occasionally turning her head to track movement, her claws gripping the uniform fabric lightly. "Academy has students from many worlds," said, trying to make conversation. "You will find that most are welcoming. We encourage friendship between species." "It sounds nice," said. "I hope to make many friends." "Your companion. Is it common for humans to keep such animals?" "About this? Humans keep many kinds of animals. Dogs, cats, birds, fish. Some people keep snakes or spiders. Is a honey badger. They are not common pets, but my family lives near wild areas. She has been with me since I was young." Batter repeated. The translation software rendered it directly, but the words meant nothing to him. "Is it dangerous?" "If she thinks I am in danger," smiled again. It was a gentle smile. "But I am safe here, so she will be calm. You do not need to worry." Reached the dormitory, showed her room, explained the sigil, and gave her a map of the station. The whole time watched him. When he finally said goodbye and closed the door, he felt relief wash over him. Walked back to his office and sat down heavily. His antennae were still flat. He could not relax them. Something was wrong. He felt it in his body and his oldest instincts. That creature was not a pet. It was not a companion. It was something else. Something that every cell in his body was telling him to run from. The paperwork was approved. The human government said it was safe. The girl said it was harmless. I'd trust the paperwork. He decided to believe that a species as young and inexperienced as humans would not bring something truly dangerous into a school full of children. The decision would prove to be a mistake, not because the creature was uncontrolled, not because the human girl was dishonest, but because the word harmless did not mean the same thing on Earth as it did everywhere else in the galaxy. Earth, harmless, meant it would not hurt you without reason. It said nothing about what would happen if it found a reason. We passed, ended her classes, ate in the dining hall, and stayed in the library like any other student. She was quiet and polite. She answered questions when teachers called on her. She did not cause trouble. She was never alone, was always there, sitting on her shoulder or sleeping in her lap during lectures. The honey badger rarely moved. She rarely made sounds. She simply watched, her dark eyes tracking every movement in every room. The students kept their distance. Word had spread quick through the academy about the stranger of creature. No one knew exactly what it was, but everyone felt the same thing when they looked at it. A deep unease. A warning from somewhere inside their bodies that said this small thing was not to be touched. Everyone felt this warning, but not everyone listened to it. One of the oldest species at the academy. They were tall, covered in hard green scales, with powerful tails and mouths full of sharp teeth. On their home world, they were apex predators. Nothing hunted them. They hunted everything else. This made them proud. Some would say too proud. Young, 15 cycles old, already taller than most adult humans. He came from an important family. His father was a military commander. His mother sat on the High Council, had grown up believing he was better than everyone else, and no one at the academy had proven him wrong. Did not like the human girl. He did not like how she walked through the corridors without fear. He did not like how she sat in class as if she belonged there. Most of all, he did not like how other students whispered about her creature instead of talking about him. On the seventh day, decided to teach the human her place. Found her in the corridor, a long hallway lined with plants from 100 worlds. She was alone, looking at a flower from some distant plant, sat on her shoulder half asleep. Toward her, his two friends both followed behind him. They spread out, blocking the corridor on both sides. There was nowhere for the human to run. Students saw what was happening. Some stopped to watch from far away. None of them moved to help. This was how things worked at the academy. The strong tested the weak. It had always been that way. Sid, his voice was deep and rough. He stopped 2 meters from her and looked down at her. She was so small. Her head barely reached his chest. I have been watching you. To face him, her expression did not change. Hello, she said. Can I help you with something? Walk around this academy like you matter. Step closer. You do not matter. Humans are nothing. Your species is young and weak. You do not belong here. Was accepted like everyone else, Sid calmly. I have the same right to be here. It's laughed. His friends laughed too. Rights are for those who can defend them. Look at you, so small, so soft. I could break you with one hand. I would prefer if you did not. What would stop me? Leaned down, bringing his face closer to hers. His teeth were very close now. Your little pet. Looked at. The hung batter was awake now, her eyes fixed on. She had not moved from shoulder, but something had changed. Her body was tense. Her fur seemed to stand slightly higher. Her lips had pulled back just enough to show her teeth. None of this, or perhaps he saw it and did not understand what it meant. What a pathetic creature, he said. Is it the best Earth can offer? A ball of fur. He reached out his hand toward. Let me show you how easily it breaks. You are standing too close, she said. Her voice was still calm, but there was something new in it. A warning. Please sit back. Now sit back. His hand moved toward the hung batter. What happened next took less than 3 seconds. She did not jump away. She did not hide behind. She launched herself directly at its face with a sound that no one in that quarter had ever heard before. It was not a growl. It was not a scream. It was something older, something that spoke directly to the ancient fear buried in every living brain. Time to react. The hung batter hit his face with all 4 sets of claws extended. She bit into the soft tissue near his eye ridge, her teeth sinking deep. She twisted her body, using her weight to tear. Blood sprayed across the corridor floor. It was not a warrior's cry. It was the scream of an animal that had suddenly realized it was prey. Tried to grab to pull her off, but her loose skin let her twist in his grip. Every time he caught her, she turned and bit his hands, his arms, his face again. She was not trying to escape. She was trying to cause as much damage as possible. Friends ran. They did not try to help him. They simply fled, their pride forgot, their instincts screaming at them to get away from the small furry thing that was taking apart their leader. Attack lasted perhaps 10 seconds, then spoke. Come. Batter released immediately. She jumped back to his shoulder and sat there, licking blood from her paws. Her dark eyes showed no excitement, no anger, no fear. She looked bored, like she had done something very ordinary. Laughed against the wall. His face was a ruin of cuts and puncture wounds. His hands were bleeding from dozens of bites. He was crying, making sounds that no should ever make in public. The time the instructors arrived had not moved. She stood exactly where she had been standing, on her shoulder, her expression calm. What happened here? Instructor demanded. His antennae were pressed so flat they almost disappeared into his head. Try to touch, said simply. She felt threatened. Into the metal bay. The doctors worked on him for 6 hours. He would survive, but he would carry scars for the rest of his life. He did not return to class for 6 days. When he did return, he never looked at it again. He never looked at it again. He never threatened anyone again. Academy had received its first lesson about Earth, about humans, about the creatures they called pets. Attacking the quarter changed everything. One day, every student at the academy knew what had happened. Within 2 days, every instructor knew. Within 3 days, messages were being sent to governments across 12 star systems asking the same question. What is a honey batter? Her arbiter was put in charge of the investigation. She was a crystalline, a species made of living mineral that had existed for millions of years. Her body was angular and sharp, catching light and breaking it into rainbows. She had no face in the way most species understood phases, but she could see, hear, and think better than almost anyone in the galaxy. Known for being fair, she was known for being thorough. She did not make decisions based on fear or anger. She gathered facts, studied them carefully, and then acted. Began by interviewing witnesses. The students who had watched from far away all told the same story, had approached the human, had threatened the human, had reached for the creature. The creature had attacked. It was so fast, one witness said, whose color still shifted to fearful yellow when talking about it. I have never seen anything move like that. One moment it was sitting still. The next moment it was on his face. There was no warning, no hesitation, it just attacked. View next. The young was still in the metal bay, his face wrapped in healing bandages. He would not look at her when he spoke. I did not think it would attack, he said. His voice was quiet, broken. It was so small I thought it was weak. I thought it was a toy. Why did you approach the human student? Silent for a long moment. I wanted to show her that she was nothing, that her species was nothing. I wanted her to be afraid. Was she afraid? No. His voice cracked. She was never afraid, she just stood there. She warned me. She told me to step back. I did not listen. Interview park. The human girl sat in the arbiter's office with on her lap. The honey badger was sleeping, or appeared to be sleeping. Her breathing was slow and even. Tell me about your creatures, said. Honey badger explained. They are native to Earth, mostly in Africa and Asia. They are known for being very brave and very stubborn. Brave and stubborn, read it. That student is twice your size. He is covered in scales that can top blades. Your creature is small and soft, yet your creature won. How? What about the question? She seemed to take it seriously. Badgers do not care about size, she said finally. They do not think about whether they can win. When they decide to fight, they fight with everything they have. They do not stop until the threat is gone or they are dead. Most of the time, the threat gives up first. This information. It did not make sense to her. Every species she knew calculated odds before fighting. Every species avoided battles they could not win. Self-preservation was the most basic instinct in the universe. Your creature does not calculate odds. No, she does not know how to give up. It is not in her nature. The interview and began her research. She requested all available data on honey badgers from Earth's information networks, which she found kept her processing for 3 days straight. Learned that honey badgers attacked lions, not defended against lions, attacked them, ran toward them, bit them on the face and held on until the lions fled. Learned that honey badgers ate venomous snakes. They would get bitten, fall unconscious from the poison, wake up a few hours later, and continue eating the snake. Learned that their skin was so thick and loose that predators could not get a grip on them. Even if something grabbed a honey badger, the creature could twist inside its own skin and bite whatever was holding it. Learned that honey badgers had been documented breaking into military vehicles. They had destroyed tires, wiring, and equipment. They had attacked creatures 10 times their size and won. They had never been successfully domesticated because they refused to submit to anything. The human kept them as pets. Her research and sat in silence for 1 hour. Her crystalline body hummed with a frequency that other crystallines would recognize as deep disturbance. Then she researched Earth, learned that Earth was not the general world the reports had existed. She learned about its predators, its diseases, its natural disasters. She learned about parasites that ate their hosts from the inside. She learned about plants that produce poison. She learned about insects that could kill with a single sting. Learned about the other animals that humans kept as pets. Dogs, which were descended from pack hunters that worked together to bring down large prey. Cats, which were ambush predators with retractable claws. Horses, which could crush a skull with one kick. She learned the most disturbing fact of all. Humans had not evolved to be the strongest or fast creatures on their world. They had survived by being clever, by working together, and by forming bonds with other species. They had tamed the most dangerous creatures on their planet and made them into friends. Called an emergency meeting of the Faculty Council. I've made a serious mistake, she told them. We assumed humans were harmless because they are soft and small. We were wrong. Humans come from a death world. They have survived by allying themselves with creatures that do not know fear, do not know surrender, and do not know when they are supposed to lose. What do we do? Instructor asked. His antennae had been flat for days. But now nothing. The human girl has done nothing wrong. Her creature defended her against a threat. By our own laws this is permitted. Paused. But we must understand what we are dealing with. I recommend we treat humans with great caution going forward. And the creature of the honeybatter considered the question for a long moment. Not touch it, she said finally. Do not threaten it. Do not threaten anyone near it. Tell the students. Tell the staff. Spread the word to every corner of this academy. He turned to look out the window at the stars. The small creature defeated a warrior in seconds. It showed no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. And the human girl watched it happen with no surprise at all. She expected it. Weeks after the incident, life at the academy had settled into a new normal. Students went to classes. Teachers taught their lesson. The corridors were busy with young beings from across the galaxy learning to live together. Something had changed. There was a circle of empty space that followed Park wherever she went. In the dining hall, 3 seats on either side of her remained empty. In class, no one sat directly behind her. When she walked through corridors, other students moved aside without thinking, their bodies responding to instincts they did not fully understand. Of course she noticed, but she did not seem bothered by it. She continued her studies, ate her meals, and spent her free time in the academy gardens reading books from Earth. Was always with her, sleeping or watching, those dark eyes missing nothing. Dr. Myra had been watching the human girl for weeks. Myra was a species covered in soft golden fur with 7 limbs that could eat, move independently. Her people were scientists by nature, always curious, always asking questions. Where other instructors saw danger, Myra saw mystery. She wanted to understand. One afternoon, she found alone in the xenobiology garden, sitting on a bench surrounded by flowers from 12 different worlds. Was in her lap, apparently asleep. "Can I sit with you?" Myra asked. Looked up. If she was surprised by the request, she did not show it. Of course. Settled onto the bench, keeping a respectful distance. Her 7 limbs arranged themselves comfortably. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply sat together in the garden, listening to the artificial wind rustle through alien leaves. "I'm the xenobiology instructor," Myra said finally. "I study life from different worlds. I have studied thousands of species, but I admit that I do not understand humans." "What would you like to know?" asked. "Things, but today I want to ask about your companion." Myra looked at. The honeybatter opened one eye, looked at then closed it again. "Why do you keep this creature? After what happened with the student, other species would distance themselves from such a dangerous animal. You have not." "Not dangerous to me," said. "She is dangerous to things that threaten me. That is different." On most worlds, creatures with such capacity for violence are avoided. They are feared. They are certainly not carried around like a friend. It was quiet for a moment. She stroked his fur gently, and the honeybatter made that low, rumbling sound that had become famous throughout the academy. "I tell you about my home?" asked. "Please." "Grew up in a rural area. Mountains, forests, rivers. It was beautiful, but it was not safe. There were wild animals in those forests. Bears, boars, snakes. Some of them would come close to our home, especially in winter when food was hard to find." Paused, remembering. "I was 7 years old. A boar came into our yard. I was playing outside alone. The boar was hungry and angry. It charged at me." Myra's fur rippled with distress. "What happened?" She was young then, barely more than a baby herself. But she ran at that boar like it was nothing. She bit its face, its legs, its belly. The boar was 5 times her size. It did not matter. She would not stop. She would not run away. She fought until the boar gave up and fled. "He saved your life." "And she has stayed with me ever since. He sleeps in my room. He travels with me wherever I go. She has never once left my side when I was in danger." Looked down at the sleeping honeybatter with an expression that Myra had not seen before. It was soft, warm, loving. "She is not a pet. She is not a tool. She is my family." Consider this. In her experience, the word family meant biological relation, creatures born from the same parents, but the human used it differently. "You call her family, but she is not your species." "It's not a species," he said. "Family is about loyalty, about love, about choosing to stand beside someone even when it is dangerous." She smiled slightly. "Humans have always understood this. Long ago we took wolves into our homes. They were dangerous predators. They could have killed us. Instead, they became our partners, our protectors, our friends. We call them dogs now. We took predators and made them family. Took predators and recognized that they were like us." Hand continued to stroke his fur. "Honeybatters do not give up. They do not surrender. They fight until they win or until they die. They are not the biggest or the strongest, but they refuse to lose." She looked up at Myra with those calm, dark eyes. "Humans respect that. We see ourselves in that spirit." I felt something shift in her understanding. For weeks she had been trying to fit humans in categories she already knew. Prey species, pack hunters, tool users, but humans were something else, something new. "You admire her aggression," Myra said slowly. "Admire her heart," corrected. "Size does not matter to her. The odds do not matter to her. She only knows one thing: protect what she loves. Everything else is secondary." The garden was quiet. Artificial sunlight filtered through the dome above them. Somewhere in the distance, other students were laughing at something. Life continued as normal. Myra sat very still, processing what she had learned. The instructor said quietly, "May I ask you a question?" "Of course." "You're not afraid of me. Everyone else stays away. They look at it and they see a monster, but you can talk to me." I thought about this carefully before answering. "I believe that understanding is more important than fear," she said. "And because I think that humans are not monsters. You are simply different. You come from a world that required you to form bonds with dangerous things to survive. This does not make you evil. It makes you survivors." It was a genuine smile, warm and grateful. You, she said. I was starting to feel very lonely. We're not alone, Meyer said, and I suspect you never have been. Looked at again. The Hunbatter had opened both eyes now and was watching her, but the gaze was different this time, less valuing, almost proving. I think I should write a paper about this, Meyer said. Humans and their companion. I think the galaxy needs to understand what we are dealing with. What will you call it? Meyer considered the question. Her 7 limbs shifted thoughtfully. Humans and their companions, a study in evolutionary partnership, she paused. Or perhaps, why you should never touch a human's pet. Laughed. It was a bright hay sound that surprised Meyer with its warmth. I like the same one said. The end, Meyer wrote both. The first became required reading for diplomatic teams across 17 systems. The second was distributed to every school in the Galactic network as a safety warning. The semester was ending. 6 months had passed since Park had walked into the Galactic Unity Academy with a honey badger on her shoulder. In that time, the Academy had changed in ways both visible and invisible. Visible changes were small but meaningful. New guidelines had been added to the student handbook about respecting companion animals from all worlds. The Metal Bay had created a spell section for treating wounds from Earth creatures, just in case. The cafeteria now served meals suitable for honey badders, though rarely ate there, preferring the food prepared herself. Visible changes were deeper. Students who had once bullied others now thought twice before acting. Though once the undisputed rulers of the Academy's social hierarchy had become quieter, had graduated early and returned to his homeworld, no one talked about why. Everywhere, in quiet conversations and careful glances, people talked about humans. About a species that looked at the most fearless creatures on their planet and said, I want that as my friend. They talked about a girl who had never raised her voice, never thrown a punch, never threatened anyone, but who walked through the Academy surrounded by an invisible shield of fear. They talked about the Hunbatter that slept in her lap during lectures, looking peaceful, looking harmless, looking like a soft toy that any child might carry. They knew better now. Semester assembly was held in the Great Hall, a massive chamber at the heart of the station. Thousands of students gathered there, PEs of every kind sitting together on benches that curved around a central stage. Lights flowed in the air, casting soft illumination on faces and scales and fur and things that had no word in any language. The Director Sovereign stood at the center of the stage. He was ancient, older than the Academy itself. His species had no name that younger races could pronounce. His body was tall and thin, wrapped in robes that seemed to be made of woven starlight. His eyes were like deep pools of darkness, holding wisdom accumulated over 10,000 years. When he spoke, everyone listened. The semester ends, said. His voice carried to every corner of the hall without implication. You have learned much, science and mathematics, history and art, how to live alongside being different from yourselves. This is the purpose of the Academy. This is why it was built. Paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled students. At the semester, we learned something unexpected. We received a lesson we did not plan for, a lesson brought to us by a single student from a world we barely knew. I in the room turned toward where sat. She was in the middle rows, surrounded by the usual circle of empty space, was in her lap, awake and watching the stage with those dark, unreadable eyes. Humans first made contact with the galactic community. We made assumptions about them. We saw that they were small. We saw that they were soft. We saw that their world was nothing special among the billions of worlds in the galaxy. We assumed they were a minor species, young and weak, not worth much attention. Voice grew heavier. We were wrong. Hall was completely silent. Semester, we learned that humans do not come from a gentle world. They come from a planet that tried to kill them every day for millions of years. They faced predators with teeth and claws. They faced diseases that could wipe out entire populations. They faced starvation and cold and natural disasters. And they survived. Ford, his starlight robes trailing behind him. They did not survive by being the strongest. They did not survive by being the fastest. They survived by doing something extraordinary. They formed bonds, not just with each other, but with the very creatures that hunted them. He gestured toward. Look at this human child. She is 12 years old. She cannot run fast. She cannot fight like us. She cannot regenerate like us. By every measure we use to judge species, she is weak. Pause. Yet on her lap sits a creature that defeated a warrior in 10 seconds. A creature that feels no fear. A creature that would rather die than abandon those it has chosen to protect. Dark eyes seemed to look at everyone at once. It did not tame the Hunbatter. You cannot tame something that does not know how to surrender. Instead, humans befriended it. They looked at a creature that nature designed to be relentless and unstoppable, and they said, you are like us. You fight without giving up. You protect without counting the cost. You are family. Word hung in the air. Family. It meant something different on every world, but somehow in that moment, everyone understood what it meant to humans. This academy exists to prepare you for the galaxy, continued. Today, I tell you something important. The galaxy now includes Earth, and Earth raises its children alongside creatures that do not know how to quit, do not know how to surrender, and do not understand that they are supposed to lose. Look directly at now. She looked back at him without flinching, had not moved, but somehow the Hunbatter seemed more alert than before. You meet humans in the stars, said. Remember what you have learned here. Remember that they are never alone. Remember that their companions are chosen for one reason. They are impossible to defeat. Hall remained silent and returned to the center of the stage. I have one final piece of advice for all of you. This advice applies especially to the humans you will meet in your future, but it applies to all species, all beings, all life. He paused. Never threat something a human loves. You may survive, but you will never forget the lesson. Assembly ended. Students filed out of the great hall in near silence, thinking about what they had heard. Many glanced at it as they passed. Some nodded. A few even smiled. No one came too close. That circle of empty space still existed. But now at least they understood why. One of the last to leave, she walked through the corridors of the academy with on her shoulder, heading back to her dormitory to pack. Tomorrow, a transport would take her back to Earth. The semester was over. Her time at the academy was done. For now, she walked, she thought about what Director had said, about bonds and loyalty, about creatures that refused to lose, about what it meant to be human. That low rumbling sound reached up and scratched behind her ears. No, she said softly. I will miss the place too, but we will come back next semester. Paused at a window, looking out at the stars. Next time, she said, maybe I will bring my dog. We're in the depths of the station. Instructor felt his antennae flatten against his head. He did not know why. He just felt suddenly that something worse was coming. He was right. Galactic Unity Academy flowed in the empty space between 3 star systems. It was a massive station, shaped like a wheel, being slowly to create gravity for the thousands of students who lived inside. The academy had been built 300 years ago when the great species of the galaxy decided that their children should learn together. They believed that young beings who stood side by side would grow up to be friends instead of enemies. For centuries, the academy had welcomed students from more than 400 different species. There had been gas creatures who flowed through the air like living clouds. There had been rock beings who moved slowly but thought deeply. There had been insect species with dozens of eyes and reptile species with scales harder than metal. The academy had seen everything, or so everyone believed. Or had worked at the academy for 6 years. He was a species known for their pale blue skin that was almost transparent and the 4 long antennae that grew from their heads. These antennae moved with his emotion, standing tall when he was happy and pressing flat when he was afraid. Was old and experienced. He had welcomed thousands of students through the academy doors. He had handled fights between species that had been enemies for centuries. And calm students who breathed fire and students who could kill with a touch. It surprised him anymore. At least that was what he told himself. The exchange program was new. Earth had only made contact with the Galactic community 17 cycles ago, which was a very short time by Galactic standards. Humans were still a mystery. The official reports described them as small, soft-bodied creatures from a medium-sized planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. Nothing remarkable, nothing dangerous. The report suggested that humans were a young species, still learning about the universe, probably harmless. The Academy Council agreed to accept its first human student. No one expected any problems. The student was a 12-year-old girl named Park. She came with excellent grades and good recommendations from her teachers on Earth. She seemed like a perfect candidate for the exchange program. It hit the registration hall on the day of her arrival. The hall was large and bright, with windows that looked out at the stars. Other staff members moved around, preparing for the new semester. Everything was normal. Transport ship docked. The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. Watch as a small figure stepped through into the station. It was indeed small. She stood about 1.5 meters tall, with black hair tied back in a simple style and dark eyes that looked around the hall with calm curiosity. She wore the standard academy uniform, gray and blue, and carried a bag over one shoulder. She did not look nervous. She did not look excited. She simply looked around like someone seeing a new place for the first time. And noticed something else. There was a creature on her other shoulder. It was small, about the size of a large fruit, covered in rough fur that was black on most of its body and white on the top of its head. It had a flat face with small round ears and eyes that were dark and cold. When it shifted its position, saw claws. Long curved claws designed for digging or tearing. When it yawned, he saw teeth. Many teeth, sharp teeth. The creature sat on the girl's shoulder like it belonged there, like it owned her, like it owned the whole station. The thing pressed flat against his head. This was automatic. His body recognized danger before his mind understood it. Walked forward slowly. "Welcome to the Galactic Unity Academy," he said, keeping his voice calm. "You are Park from Earth." "Yes," the girl said. Her voice was soft and polite. "Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. I'm instructor. I will help you settle into your dormitory." He paused, looking at the creature. It was looking back at him. Those dark eyes held no warmth, no friendliness. They held only cold evaluation. "And this creature with you, what is it?" Sis said. She reached up and scratched behind the creature's ear. It made a low sound, somewhere between a growl and a purr. "She's my emotional support animal. I have brought all the correct items." His talent, the files were there. The human government had sent registration papers, health tickets, and permission forms. Someone in the Academy administration had approved everything. There were signatures and stamps in a fill seal. "Permitted inside the Academy?" he asked, though the answer was clearly in the documents. Yes, the paperwork was approved. Smiled slightly. "She is harmless. She is very friendly when she knows someone. She will not cause any trouble." Did again? The creature had stopped making that rumbling sound. It was watching him with complete stillness, like a predator deciding whether prey was worth the effort. He said. He did not see. He understood nothing about what he was looking at. "Please follow me." Walked through the academy quarters. The station was busy with students preparing for the new semester. Young beings from dozens of species moved through the halls, talking and laughing and greeting friends they had not seen during the break. Everyone stopped to stare at. No, everyone stopped to stare at. The students, tall reptiles with green scales and powerful tails, watched from a distance. Their eyes narrowed. A cluster of beings made of colored gas changed from calm blue to alarmed orange as passed. Ianda, a species famous for fearing nothing because they could regrow any lost body part, stepped aside to let her through. No one said anything, but everyone felt something. A warning. An instinct buried deep in their biology that said that small creatures not to be touched. To notice none of this, she walked calmly beside, asking questions about the academy, about classes, about the library and the garden. She was polite and curious. She seemed like a perfectly normal student. Watch everything. Her head turned slowly, tracking movement. Her dark eyes missed nothing. Her claws gripped uniform lightly, ready to hold tight or release in an instant. Reached the dormitory, showed her room, explained the rules, and gave her a map of the station. The whole time he could not relax. His antennae stayed flat. His body refused to believe it was safe. He finally left and closed the door behind him. He let out a long breath. Something was wrong. He felt it in every cell of his body. That creature was not a pet. It was not an emotional support animal. It was something else entirely. Something that every species in the galaxy had learned to fear over millions of years of evolution. The paperwork was approved. The human government said it was safe. The girl said it was harmless. I'd trust the Dians. He decided to believe that a young species like humans would not bring something truly dangerous into a school full of children. Decision was a mistake, not because it was lying, not because it was out of control, but because the word harmless meant something very different on Earth than it meant everywhere else in the galaxy. Academy was about to learn that lesson. But that is a story for another time. It began with the same sentence. Do not underestimate humans and never, ever threat something they love. I hummed again with a deep, disturbing frequency. Humans are not prey. They never were. We simply did not understand what kind of predator they had become. It was only the beginning. 1 week passed at the Galactic Unity Academy. The new semester had begun, and thousands of students settled into their routines. Class started. Homework was assigned. The cafeteria served food from 100 different worlds. Everything seemed normal. Ended her classes like any other student. She sat in the front row, took careful notes, and answered questions when teachers called on her. She was quiet and polite. She never caused problems. She never raised her voice. She ate her meals alone in the cafeteria and spent her free time reading in the library or walking through the station garden. It was never alone. It was always with her. Barra sat on his shoulder during classes. He slept in his lap during meals. She watched from his desk while studied. The creature rarely moved quickly. She rarely made sound. She seemed lazy, almost sleepy, like a pet that had grown too comfortable. She was always watching. Those dark eyes tracked every movement in every room. When someone walked too close to, his head would turn. When someone spoke too loudly nearby, ears would shift. She was always alert, always ready, even when she looked like she was sleeping. Other students noticed. They kept their distance. An invisible circle surrounded wherever she went. No one sat next to her in class. No one stood near her in the cafeteria line. No one tried to talk to her in the quarters. Everyone felt the warning that sent out just by existing. Everyone respected that warning. Almost everyone. One of the proudest species at the academy. They came from a harsh world where only the strong survived. Their ancestors had been ape predators, hunting everything and being hunted by nothing. This history made them confident. Some would say arrogant. They believed they were better than other species because their claws were sharper and their scales were harder. Young, 15 years old, he stood over 2 meters tall with dark green scales and a thick tail that could knock down a wall. His family was powerful. His father commanded fleets. His mother made laws. Had grown up believing that the universe belonged to him and beings like him. Did not like Park. He did not like how she walked through the corridors without showing fear. He did not like how she sat in class like she deserved to be there. Most of all, he did not like how everyone whispered about her strange creature instead of talking about him. He wanted attention. He wanted respect. He wanted everyone to remember that they were the strongest, and he was the strongest at the academy. On the 7th day of the semester, he decided to teach the human a lesson. Found her in the corridor, a long hallway filled with plants from many worlds. Colorful flowers grew on the walls. Strange trees reached toward the artificial sunlight. The air smelled sweet and fresh. He was alone looking at a blue flower from a distant plant. Sat on her shoulder, eyes half closed, seemingly asleep. Walked toward her, his 2 friends both followed behind him. They spread out, blocking the corridor on both sides. There was nowhere for the human to run. Students saw what was happening. A group afloat at the far end of the corridor, their colors shifting nervously. Some younger students from smaller species peeked around corners. No one moved to help. This was how things worked. The strong tested the weak. It had always been that way. 2 meters from, he was so much taller than her. She had to look up to see his face. He said, his voice was deep and rough like stone grinding together. I have been watching you this week. To face him, her expression did not change. She did not look afraid. She did not look angry. She looked calm like she was talking to anyone about anything. Hello, she said. Is there something you need? Walk around this academy like you belong here. Step closer. You do not belong here. Humans are weak. Your species is young and stupid. You should stay on your little planet and leave the galaxy to real beings. I was accepted to the academy like everyone else, said quietly. I have the same right to be here as you do. So for those who can defend them. Laughed, and his friends laughed with him. Look at you, so small, so soft. Your skin is thin, your bones are weak. I could break you with one hand. I would prefer if you did not do that. What would stop me? Leaned down, bringing his face close to hers. His teeth were long and sharp, designed for tearing meat. Your little pet. Looked at. The honey badger was awake now, very awake. Her eyes were fixed on with complete focus. Her body had become tense. Her fur stood up slightly. Her lips had pulled back just enough to show the edges of her teeth. These signs? But he did not understand them. On his world, small creatures ran from large ones. That was the rule. That was how nature worked. What a pathetic creature, he said. Is this the best your planet can offer? A ball of fur that cannot even look dangerous. He raised his hand toward. Let me show you how easily something so small can break. Standing too close to, said. Her voice was still calm, but there was something different in it now. A warning. Please sit back. Now sit back. His clawed hand moved toward the honey badger. What happened next took less than 3 seconds. Exploded into motion. She did not jump away from danger. She did not try to hide behind. She launched herself directly at its face with a sound that no one in that corridor had ever heard before. It was not a growl or a scream. It was something older, something primal, something that spoke to ancient fears buried in every living brain. Time to react. The honey badger hit his face with all 4 feet, claws extended. She bit into the soft flesh near his eye ridge. Her teeth sank deep. She twisted her body, using her weight to tear. Blood sprayed across the corridor floor, dark red on the white owls. It was not a battle cry. It was not a warrior shout. It was the scream of prey. The scream of something that had suddenly realized it was being eaten. He tried to grab to pull her off his face, but her loose skin let her twist inside his grip. Every time he caught hold of her body, she turned and bit his hands, his wrists, his arms. She was not trying to escape. She was trying to cause as much damage as possible. Friends ran. They did not try to help him. They simply turned and fled, their pride forgot, their instincts screaming at them to get away from the small furry thing that was destroying their leader. Attack lasted 8 seconds, then spoke 2 words. Come. Batter released immediately. She jumped back to his shoulder and sat there, licking blood from her claws. Her dark eyes showed no excitement. Her body showed no stress. She looked bored, like she had done something very ordinary and slightly annoying. Down the wall to the floor. His face was a mess of cuts and puncture wounds. His hands were covered in bite marks. He was making sounds that no should ever make, crying sounds, whimpering sound. Instructors arrived minutes later. They found standing exactly where she had been standing, on her shoulder, her expression unchanged. What happened here? Instructor demanded. His antennae were completely flat. Tried to touch, said simply. She felt threatened. She defended herself. Into the metal bay. The doctors worked on him for many hours. He would live, but he would carry scars forever. He did not return to class for 6 days. When he finally came back, he never looked at it again. He never threatened anyone again. The academy had learned its first lesson about Earth creep. It was only the beginning. The academy was about to learn this lesson, and it would never forget it.